This screencast is to help identify and explain some of the aspects of your seminar prompts. So first of all, I'm going to show you some examples, and I feel like there is no example that you should model every single thing that you do because your notes and your responses are unique. But I think it's helpful for you to see some examples of maybe what to strive for and perhaps what to stay away from. So first of all, let me just show you this, and I'll show you a couple examples here. This student, as I asked for in class, assigned one prompt to each page. This is just one page. They wrote prompt number 1 at the top. That's fine. You don't have to write the prompts on there. Again, these are papers that you're going to be using during the seminar, so whatever you need to function is fine. You'll notice that this student did full sentences, but also in bullet points. Let me show you another example. This student also, this is their prompt. This is about prompt number 3. And I can see some quotations that are bullet pointed. And then I also see the student using arrows to show where these examples are coming from, Snowflower and the Secret Fan. I think that this student has a little bit more of a bulleted point presentation of what their thoughts are, as opposed to this student. They have bullet points, but they also have a little bit more complete thoughts that are written down. Again, something that's going to work for you. Here's another example. This student did prompt number 1. They're showing the author's name for Snowflower and the Secret Fan. At the end, the student is putting their ideas. The Chinese were wrong to accept this practice. It made the girl's feet fragile and deformed. And then we also see some statistics like ages 7 or 8, how this would harm girls physically. And then we also see an example here for prompt number 4. This student did some stuff about their ideas about making progress since this era. There are some examples about current day. And you'll notice that in parentheses, the student is putting where they got this information from, so the sustainable goals. There's an article that they found about women outnumbering men in the workforce, something about Saudi Arabian women being allowed to drive. So those are some examples of how you might lay out your notes. Again, there's no one way to do it. It's really about the way that you're going to use your notes during the seminar and what's going to be easiest for you. If it were me and I just had a paragraph in front of me, I think that would be really difficult because I'd have a hard time finding my place. But these students that did bullet points with full thoughts, that might be a little bit easier. I just want to show you maybe some minimal ways to include your notes in a moment, but I just want to show you some things that I think are really great ideas for students going into the seminar. This whole section is about, right here, the student is getting some ideas about, yes, the Chinese were wrong for accepting this. And then down here, the student is preparing some ideas for them being not wrong. So I think it's a good idea for you to prepare examples and text to defend either point. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you believe. You could just argue a point. It doesn't have to be personal. The other thing is I think it's great for you to anticipate the counter argument when preparing your notes. This student, it's a little bit harder for me to make sense of how this student was planning on using some of these notes. But again, I see a lot of quotations here, a lot of examples that this student can use. They're putting the exact words from the text. You're a worthless nothing. You're an embarrassment to your ancestors. So I think that it's a great idea for you to actually have the text ready that you feel you might be compelled to use in the seminar, as opposed to going back into the text and looking for it, unless you have it saved and highlighted somewhere. This student also is preparing some quotations ahead of time. You'll notice that they're more of a paraphrased format. Like, I don't see a ton of quotation marks in here, but I do see them somewhere. But this student is choosing to paraphrase them ahead of time in their own words, and that might be the strategy that you want to take. Again, you have to choose something that's going to work for you. Here I have a student putting a lot of direct quotations and then presumably going to analyze them and refer to them in the seminar in their own words, clearly, but they really want to cite the exact text. This student might just be relaying that example from Snowflower and the Secret Fan where the girl was told that she would never be married. You don't have to say things as word for word. It's great if you do. But as long as you're referring to text in a specific way, it can be a direct quotation or it can be a paraphrase. Let me show you some more minimal captures of some notes. So this is a student's ideas for prompt number 2. They wrote the prompt at the top, which I think is a great idea. It's good to have it in front of you. Again, whatever's going to work for you. And this student is getting into the concept that they want to look at both arguments, that foot binding demean women and also empowered women. I think that it's a better strategy to lay out the empowerment argument and then the demeaning argument in separate sections. I think by just putting both here, you're not going to have a clear place to go look for your information to defend your point. The other thing is that I feel as though they have some great ideas. They're ready to rock with a direct quotation right here, but I also think that this student is probably not evaluating enough of the sources, and if I zoom out a little, I see that it's a little bit minimal on the page. Now, short doesn't mean it's going to be bad or not enough. It could just be concise. But when I look at this and I see that they're only just putting both up here, they're not anticipating the pro or the against argument, and then they're also only preparing one quotation ahead of time, I think they could have added more. This student right here has, and I think starting off for number 4, and then also we see a couple of references to the historical time period. I don't see any quotations prepared in advance, and I don't really see any contemporary issues, which is what number 4 is about. So for these 2 examples I'm showing right here, I would say that both of these students are not proficient on the rubric in terms of preparing their responses ahead of time.